I originally traveled to the Marquesas Islands in the early 90s. At this time, I was conducting research on the Morinda citrifolia plant. I had found some exciting and unique properties of this plant. One of the challenges that I had was to find enough fruit to support a large and fast-growing company.
I'm Johna Wadswortha. I'm from Orem, Utah, and I'm an awesome 64 years old. I just feel so good. Back in the 90s, Noni was not a common term. In fact, the first time I heard of this product, I heard it as the word no-no, N-O-N-O. A neighbor came to me and says, "Hey, I just came back from Tahiti, and I heard that no-no provides good health for people." He knew that I was a food scientist and dealt in new product development. And it was fascinating because there was no Google then. You couldn't look it up on your phone. You had to go to a library. And so I go to the libraries to try to find any information on no-no. But there was nothing on no-no. And so I had to call someone in Tahiti. I had to find a name, not only a name of a person, but a name of a person who knew English, that I could call and ask questions about no-no. And so I got a name. It's an older lady, and she was very kind and nice. Of course, all the Polynesians are very kind and nice and friendly. That's just their culture. And I was able to call her and ask her some questions about no-no, and actually ask if she would send me a sample of this. Now, as a food scientist developing new products, I was used to receiving samples in nice, neat little packages with a certificate of analysis, so I knew exactly what was in that sample, right? She finally sent me a sample. It was crude. It was a large glass jar with a wide-mouthed lid, a white steel lid on the top. It was painted white, but the edges of that lid were rusty. There was a newspaper between the lid and the bottle, and the newspaper was dripping into the solution below. And as I opened it, there was fermentation going on in this sample. And when I opened it up, I broke the seal and the pressure was released, and the room immediately was filled with this, I'm gonna say stench, okay? It was awful. It was awful. And so I just put the lid back on and pushed it aside because I didn't know what to do with it. But it kept haunting me. And so I decided that I would set some practical studies just with people with different ailments, right? And there was 4 different groups, and the results of these groups were absolutely stunning, amazing. They really felt better in this short protocol that we followed. And so I needed to find out more. So I called the lady again and say, "What should I do?" And she says, "Well, you need to come over. You need to come over and visit us." And so before this, I hadn't traveled. I actually had a passport, but I hadn't traveled really. I went to Mexico once with a passport. So I decided to go to Tahiti. Now, at this time in my life, it wasn't easy. I had 9 children, didn't have much money. My partner and I were developing food, but we didn't have consistent jobs that we were developing products for. And so I decided I was going to go to Tahiti. Packed a bag, got my credit cards, put them in my back pocket, and go to Tahiti. And I land, I find a translator because I don't know the local language. This translator's young. I don't pay him because I don't have any money. I was fascinated by it, so he comes along with me. And do you know the first thing we do is we go downtown in Papeete, stand on a street corner, and as people walk by, we ask them, "What can you tell us about no-no?" The fascinating thing is that everyone had a story. They would tell us about their uncle or their aunt or their grandma or their child, and they would address most every ailment that you can think of. And so this was fascinating. And so I met with the government leaders, and I said to some of the government leaders, I said, I want to take some no-no and I want to sell it to the Americans. She actually leaned back in her chair and started laughing when I said that. The Americans will never buy this. It tastes so bad and smells so bad. They'll never buy this. They're crazy to do that. But the stories were so compelling that I pursued this feeling. So we would drive around the island. Some of you know the names of these islands, Tahiti and Moorea and Bora Bora and Huahine. These are the islands in the Society Islands where most of the population is. And there was some no-no, but not enough. So I asked, where can I go find more no-no? The translator says, well, you need to go to Marquesas to find more no-no. Well, Marquesas is 1,000 miles to the north, and you need to fly there. The airplane tickets are quite expensive, and my translator says, I don't know Marquesian, so we're going to have to take another translator. So there's 3 tickets that I need to buy. I'm a little nervous about spending the money because I have little, and I'm using my credit cards. And so I ask him, can you call ahead and make sure that there's a lot of no-no? He says, sure. So he calls ahead, comes back and says, John, there's a lot of no-no over there. They're so excited for you to come. They're going to help you gather it up. They'll put it in a box and you can take it home with you. I thought, wow, I don't want a box, I want a truckload. Can you call again and just make sure? Yeah. So he comes back with the same response. So I says, okay. I buy the tickets and we start flying across the Pacific Ocean, low elevation, and it's loud and it's rumbling and it's shaking. And 4 hours to finally land on the island of Nukuhiva. We land on the dry side of the island. It looks like a desert. In these islands of Marquesas, there's no beaches. These sheer cliffs shoot out of the water. And so we get in a Jeep and we start traversing up the top of the mountain and down to the other side. And so it rains a lot. It's not a paved road, and so there's a lot of ruts. And so you're in the Jeep moving like this for 4.5 hours it takes you to get to this little village that we're going to. We pull up to this one-room hut, and I walk in, and I'm tired. We've been traveling for all day long. And there's a sheet down the middle of this one-room hut. I look on one side of the sheet and notice that I'm sleeping on one side, and the family's sleeping on the other side. The translator's over with the family, and they're just laughing and carrying on, having a good time. And after some time, the translator comes over to me and says, John, we have a problem. And he says, well, the problem is all the time that I've called over here to find out if there's a lot of no-no, there is. But the word no-no in Marquesas is a mosquito. And the word for the fruit is noni. And in Tahiti, it's just the opposite. The fruit is called nono, and the mosquito is called noni. And so this was devastating news, as you can imagine, and that I could feel the blood just leave my head, and I suddenly was embarrassed, and I didn't know what to do because I had spent all my money on these credit cards to come to find a mosquito. And so I look at the translator and I say, you know what, this is too hard. I don't want to do it anymore. The government's laughing at me. The partner's calling me crazy. I just want to go home. Please take me home. And he says, well, we can't go home. The plane doesn't come back for 3 more days, and so you can't get off this island. And so that was another piece of news that was just devastating to me. So since we're stuck there, let's just drive around the island and we'll see if we can find some noni or no-no or whatever. It wasn't in my heart anymore. It was towards the end of the second day, I was starting to feel a little better because tomorrow I go home. It was towards the end of that day, and we were riding in the Jeep all day, and when you do that, your knees get a little tight. So we stopped at the side of the road to get out of the Jeep to stretch our legs, and I got out of the Jeep, and I could see in the horizon these large billowing clouds. You've seen them before. They're huge, they're white, they're just so inviting. The rays of the sun are piercing through those clouds, and my eyes are following those rays down to the valley below, and I notice that in this valley, the valley is filled with noni. I mean, it's covered with it. It's like the mother lode. And as I'm standing looking at this, I sort of look back at the driver and the translator, and they're over there laughing, so they're not even seeing this. And I'm looking at this beautiful sight, and I have this impression that comes to me that's really strong. In fact, I feel it today as I'm telling you now that this fruit, noni, will bless the lives of the world and also bless the lives of the people in Tahiti. That moment changed my life, and it's still with me today. So the interesting thing is, if that plane would have come back the next day, I would be on it. And I wouldn't have had the experiences that I've had in the last 25 years, which have been amazing. I don't know what I'd be doing today, but it wouldn't be with you, telling this story. And sometimes the days are hard. And if I could just ask you on those hard days to just remember one thing: the plane doesn't come back for 3 more days. You gotta keep trying. I have to tell myself that regularly, because you never know what's just around the corner. You never know what's gonna happen just tomorrow, because there might be someone that not only sees your vision and feels your passion, but takes that to a new level and does something in your life that is just unimaginable. And so we can never quit. We can never give up. We have to just keep going, keep trying in those things that we truly believe in, that we truly have passion for. Don't give up.